So this happened over the weekend. You need to listen very clearly. This happened on the NHL broadcast, and people got upset about it. This is you can see the tweet here. It's 2020, and yet, mind blown, okay? This is a broadcaster talking about the bubble environment of the NHL. If you don't know, the NHL is the NHL, the NBA, and Major League Soccer previously were the first two. They're still currently in a bubble environment, meaning that people can't leave or come out without being quarantined with for the COVID virus. It's designed to keep things very, very sterile. It's designed to keep things to where people just can't go out, possibly catch it, and bring in and infect the entire league, and the league's over. Okay, it's just kind of one of those things. So this happened. And this is what one of the announcers was said about it. So once again, it's going to be tough to hear. I need you to turn up your speakers.
Come here and play hockey. And if you think about it, it's a terrific environment with regards to if you enjoy playing and enjoy being with your teammates for long periods of time, it's a perfect place.
Not even any woman here to disrupt their concentration.
Oh, and also, too, no travel.
They said it's a really great environment. And then the announcer came in and said there's not any women in to come in and distract you, right? And then Twitter takes over and Twitter goes, rah, 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 it's sexist, it's misogynist. There's no place in this. How can we have women in hockey if you have a mindset like this, right? What about the coaches? What about the trainers? They're women. Are they a distraction? Here I am, just a woman distracting men. Let's talk about this. So, as an athlete, this is something, I'm going to speak to you from multiple perspectives here. As a man and as an athlete. As a man athlete, okay? When I was an athlete, this is something that was said. This was said to the males on the team, the boys on the team, whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, whether you're in pros. This is a common theme across all athletics, right? Why? What he said was not derogatory towards women. What he said was derogatory towards men. Right? And that's not a bad thing. It wasn't derogatory at all. And they came out and he has been pulled off the broadcast and he has been pulled off. And once again, this is my opinion. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. He's been pulled off the broadcast. He doesn't want to distract, right? And that's kind of the line. I don't think he's going to be fired. I think he'll come back next season because usually it's just kind of one of those things. He's going to be done for the rest of the season. But the commentator said he understands his mistakes. He's sorry for it, and rinse and repeat, right? We hear this all the time. He has been canceled because he said that women are a distraction. Let me stake my claim here. Let me tell you why I feel this is more of a derogatory statement towards men, right? I don't even say it's derogatory, right? It's more of just like it's something that everybody in their entire world knows. And once again, I'll go back to the tweet that I had here just a second ago that I had earlier about this, and we'll kind of go from there. My stance on this initially, very simply, was this. People are offended by the idea that men, let alone testosterone-fueled alphas, could be distracted by women. We're not breaking much news here, considering one of the biggest memes of the last year is literally a guy being distracted by a girl who is another girl, who is with another girl, okay? This is something that everybody knows, right? Men have two brains, one up here and one down here. Okay, that's just the reality of it. And oftentimes, men think with this brain way more than they think with this brain. Okay, so the idea that they're being derogatory is really silly to me. Is the idea that this is something that is a theme across all sports, right? Guess what happens when athletes go from city to city? They hop on Tinder. They hook up with the first girl they see that's willing to hook up with them, right? The first 10 they can find, guess what? These are young men with lots of testosterone and lots of money, right? And what he said about women being a distraction, that's absolutely true. And it's not about the women, it's about the men. That's 100% about the men. So, like I said, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Florida Man says, men play the game. They mostly date women. Any relationship can distract from a job or career. People need to knock off the BS and how it is. Whiny little turds need to get over it. Yes, and that's accurate, right? It could be, when he says women, right, people want to hop on the it's a bad thing train. It's not a bad thing, right? Once again, this is more about a statement about the hockey players than anything else. Skirta says, I think this is the perfect example of cancel culture at its finest. I I don't mean this to sound rude, but people need to get over themselves and stop canceling everyone because they said something they didn't like. How did it affect their health or overall life? Guarantee it didn't. People need to grow up, move along, and not cry because of it. Mr. Lupin says, in my opinion, I think social media like Twitter are just very sensitive. Sensitive people who are willing to do, quote, canceling culture, regardless of truth or false. Either way, Twitter is just sensitive. If we have any women in the chat, I would love to hear your perspective on this. It's very important that I hear your perspective. I need to hear this because I think that as I'm Your Huckleberry says, if there was no Twitter, there would be no controversy on this. Twitter is a virus. I think the idea of having social media, in theory, is great. But the idea that what we've done here and finding things and trying to zero in on these things is exactly why this show exists, why we can have these conversations. Jay Helm says, I took it more as a joke towards men. Like we get distracted so easily, especially with the women most of the time. Right, and that's exactly the whole point of this. Now, I will say this. I had a really good conversation with somebody, and I essentially put out this thought. And once again, I would love to hear, if we have any women watching, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Because for me, I don't understand this logic. And they will say, and some will say, it's because you're a man. I will say, okay, that's fine. Please understand my logic as a man. You don't understand because you're a woman. We come from just different places, and you know what? That's fine. That's the whole idea here. For the most part, when you look at this thread here that this woman says, there's a lot of people here who will come in and they will fire away. And like Michael says, there's a lot of reasons not to enjoy him, but can we take a breath and release our clutch pearls, right? A little aggressive, but I get it, right? Totally understand. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about, what will happen here oftentimes is people will then jump on the train and, yeah, well, I never liked him. Well, I didn't like him before you didn't like him. And this is why I didn't like him, because he made a stupid comment back then. If we're going to be upset about stupid comments, right, the whole idea of like, well, let's forgive him. Let's forgive him, okay? Or crucify him, right? How about everybody makes mistakes? That's happened before, right? And I'm not even saying this is a mistake. I don't even know if it's a mistake. But it is something that he's literally lost his job over for this season because of this. So, like I said, I would love to hear if we have any women in our chat. If you have women in the comments, please let me know for sure. Love it. Allison says, I don't think you're wrong, Craig, but I think the announcer could have thought of a better example off the cuff, especially during a game live on TV. Well, Allison, I appreciate your thoughts on that, and I'll say this. It is live TV, and it's one of those things that happens, right? Being on live TV, whenever I'm live, you need to think, but he's also watching a game, and this is also something that happens literally in every single road trip and every single team in every single sport. It's, hey, guess what? Don't go out. Don't be stupid. Don't go to bed with anybody you don't need to go to bed with, right? Keep your eye on the prize. Stay focused, because men are stupid, right? Men are dumb. That newsflash. I mean, it's just the reality of it. Could he chosen better words? Sure, right? Could he said it would now? But if he would have come back and said, "Look, we're in this bubble environment. I'm glad he doesn't have any kids here to worry about. They're whining and sniffling, right?" Then the people who are the child advocates say, well, this guy clearly hates children. And how does this guy have kids? How does he have grandkids? He clearly hates kids, right? So it's almost to the point to where we can't even speak anymore. And that is crazy to me. Skirta says, in addition to this being more of a jab against men, I played hockey in high school. If I had $1 for every time a coach told us to keep our dicks in our pants and not be distracted. Correct, right. Joy says, Daniel Loco brings up an amazing point. I feel like the distraction would be from those with families. The lack of contact with those with new babies would distract more than anything. What about those with families that where they can't go home for some relaxation with them? Joy, and I appreciate that, right? But I think the big thing about that is that when you sign up to play in this league, the players have an option to opt out at any time. We saw that with the Boston Bruins goalie. He felt that his family was more important. He played 2 games, and he opted out and said, "Hey, I'm going to go spend time with my family." And he left his team. And you know what? Everyone's like, "Cool, get it." Right? He spent a week in the bubble, however long it was, 2 weeks. It's like, I got to go. And he left. So as a hockey player, as an athlete, you're going into this situation. Every single athlete has an opportunity to opt out. Every single one, with no repercussions. And some have. And there's nothing wrong with that. So those with families that want to spend time with families, I think it's a little different, right? I think it's one of those situations where they have the opportunity to FaceTime their kids. It's not like they don't get to see them. They have an opportunity to FaceTime their families. Honestly, I got to be honest, like straight up honest with you. Once again, these are early to mid 20s, 30s, alpha men, just bulging with testosterone, right? I have no idea. Like, I don't know how they're handling the sexual situation there, right? I don't even know how, because let's just be real, right? My wife says that if it's been a week, right, like, I get pissy, right? These guys have been quarantined forever. I mean, this is grown-ass talk, all right? So let's talk grown-ass talk. I don't know how these guys are doing it. I think they need to be commended, 100%. Turek says, high-level athletes, in this case NHL players, women are distracting. Correct me if I'm wrong, but one date or one hookup prior to a match affects the physical performance. Probably the way the commentator told it, but not accurate told it was not accurate, but crucifying with canceling, people destroying a man's career. Brazil says, I think it would be insulting to both men because he's implying, and people seem to be agreeing that men can't control themselves around women, and women being objectifying them, right? So Beer is saying women have right to be upset, and men have right to be upset. So everybody's just going to be upset about this singular comment, right? And I appreciate that. That's awesome. That's great. Love it. Love it. Love it. Man. Leroy says, I'm in the middle on this one. I think what he said is wrong, and but I don't want him fired. It was a joke based off a shitty stereotype that's been pervasive for a long time. I don't think it's a stereotype. I think it's 100% accurate. Like I said, it happens all the time. All the time. I don't think it's wrong at all or a stereotype. The idea that men/boys can't control themselves around women needs to be modified, that their attraction/actions to compensate for the boys without any impulse control. And I don't think that's what he's saying, right? This is not like hockey players going around just humping the air, right? That's not what he's saying, and I don't think that's what it's implied. But what he is saying is that, look, they're not just looking to score on the ice when they go on a road trip. I mean, let's be real. And you know what? There are women there who are also there to score as well, right? So it's a two-way street here. So I appreciate that, Leroy. It's great. Love that. We'll finish up with one more here. Mike says, I always find the, quote, he should be fired for this or that argument, not just knowing this incident, but in general, because it's easy to say it now, but this happened so quick as the commentator is focusing on the game and what others are saying. He had no time to think if he should or should not say it. Not saying that as an excuse. I personally also find the comment a bit iffy, but also a dumb joke. Commentators say dumb jokes all the time. We say dumb jokes all the time. Right, for sure. Let's say the Michael B has one more thing. He says, I think Tom Segura put it well. You can be put off or offended by something someone said, but not expect anything to be done. But 90% of Twitter would disagree. Right, for sure. Oh, here we go. Cash Faded says, Craig, as a woman, I think you're oversimplifying the problem as it's just a comment, but women have been told over and over. And additionally, saying it's just how guys are is very close to the problematic thought of boys will be boys when men do things that make women feel uncomfortable. Additionally, you are ignoring any player who isn't straight. He is also saying that hockey is better. Hockey is better because women are there / a distraction. Well, sure, exactly. But I'm going to go on a limb and say that the vast majority of NHL players are straight. I'm just going to go on a limb there, right? So I think it's okay for him to speak for the vast majority of players there that like women, right? I think that's not a gross overestimation there. And I don't think what he's saying is boys will be boys, right? I think, once again, the vast majority of these relationships that players have that can be seen as a distraction, I think those are very much mutual relationships, right? But if you are in a bubble situation, right, and you know that you can't get out and these other distractions can't get in, whether it's women, kids, pizza delivery men, whatever. When you have that and you don't have to worry about that, as Forrest Gump says, just one less thing. Hey, I want to thank you for tuning in. This is kind of a new thing I'm trying here on the channel. The big thing I feel is missing here on the internet is just open discourse. So I wanted to do a live show and introduce this over on Twitch and here on YouTube and give you guys the clip. So if you're new, if you like having grown-ass talk, consider subscribing and go watch some more. I greatly appreciate that. And we'll see where this goes. Can't do it without your help. Thanks.